this week we're talking about intersex issues, particularly with regard to two news stories that have been circulating in the media. One is about a child born in India who is a true hermaphrodite, two sets of everything. I'll put the links to both stories in the sidebar. And the deal with that child is that it's perfectly healthy, but the parents can't afford to have any kind of surgery done to make the child female. And the second story is about some intersex individuals in the Gaza Strip who are male pseudo-hermaphrodites, show XY chromosomes, testicles, but the external genitalia is female. The story about Gaza is about teenagers who are having to switch from living as female to living as male, and then wanting some kind of sex reassignment surgery to make them more male, make their genitals more male, and how this transition is affecting them. To talk about, first of all, the story about India and this idea of doing surgeries on intersex babies. I just think it's awful to do any kind of unnecessary surgery on anyone of any age without their consent. And the thing is with babies is, people say it's easier to raise a child as male or female, and society won't accept the child if it's not one or the other, and this is a necessary surgery for the child to lead a normal life. And the thing is, that surgery does not make the child male or female. It doesn't. There are all different kinds of surgeries, but cosmetically they might appear somewhat more as one or the other, but it's still going to be obvious that there's something else, that there's been a surgery done. People often think of female genitalia as being the absence of male genitalia. Well, no, females have a vagina and labia and clitoris, and there's a whole set of genitals there, and removing any kind of phallus is not going to create female genitalia. And they ruin a lot of the function. So you might have genitals that are very ambiguous and not male or female, and people might think that that looks bad, but it's perfectly functioning. The individual will still grow up to experience sexual pleasure and be able to urinate just fine, or whatever function needs to be done down there is in perfect working order. It's just different. And the thing is, also, when it's a child, you don't know the gender orientation of the brain. It's not evident until the child is a little bit older. So if you have a child with mixed genitals, doing a surgery to make the genitals look more female is not going to give you a female child. Necessarily, unless the child has a female brain, you're not going to get that. So, and then you have the problem of, wow, we find out later that, oh, this child was a boy the whole time, and you've destroyed their genitals, and from my experience talking with intersex people, a lot of them are really, really upset about the surgeries that were done on them as a child, if they went through a surgery. Using parents just instead of getting the proper counseling they need to address these issues with their child, they're just oh, we can't possibly bring that up, and how would we explain it? And they transfer this shame and taboo. They just make it a shameful taboo thing, and it doesn't need to be that way. Using these surgeries to kind of make intersex people invisible, it doesn't really work, and it just causes lots of oppression, and it perpetuates this notion that intersex is very rare. And it's actually not. some kind of intersexuality is present in like 1 in 100 babies. It's not that rare. People just don't talk about it. It's kind of like other issues that people consider taboo or not okay to talk about. And the news article said the baby is in perfect health. There's no health reason for any kind of surgery. Everything functions. So, in my opinion, we should just leave that child be, and we should start changing society instead of changing bodies to fit a concept that doesn't, to fit a binary that doesn't really exist. The case with the Gaza story is, the way the story is presented, it's really emphasizing inbreeding in the Gaza Strip, and that's why this is happening. That's why these kids are being born intersex, is because first cousins are marrying each other. And I think this is a really racist way to take a racist approach to an intersex story, because it's one thing to want to raise awareness about intersexuality and that it exists and this is how we deal with it, and just present it with a non-biased view, but that's not how CNN is presenting it. They're showing it as like, oh, these dirty inbreeding Arabs, look what they're creating mutant babies. It's just, I really don't like that tone of how the story is being presented, and it's also ignoring the fact that intersex is almost as common. Intersex conditions are common in North America. They're common in Western Europe. This is not unique to the Gaza Strip. Okay, yes, the Gaza Strip has a higher incidence of this one type of intersexuality than other places. Okay, that doesn't mean intersex conditions don't exist elsewhere and exist for lots of other reasons. And the most striking piece of information I found about that article was nothing about inbreeding, nothing about the condition itself, but the fact that the doctors advised that the families transitioned these two 14-year-old cousins to male socially, when one of them clearly identifies as female and says she feels like female, she's always been raised as female, she wants to be female, and that this transition is really traumatic for her. And that was the most striking bit of information there for me, because it seems to me if she has external female genitalia and she identifies as female and wants to live as female, then why not remove the testicles and give her estrogen? That's what. But I mean, even if she has XY chromosomes, so what? So that's something that I found striking, is that they were not listening. No one seems to be listening to what they want and how they identify. It's just like, oh, you have XY chromosomes and testicles, you must be male. We need to completely change your life. And that I find to be more striking, and I wish the article had taken more of that approach of, let's raise awareness about gender identity and intersex conditions in general, and do a comparison and have interview someone who's from the North American Intersex Society or something and hear their opinions on the issue, and instead of talking about how these two youth and how their gender identities are in conflict just like the land around them. It's like, oh, gag me. And I just don't like it when there's a story that has so much the potential to educate and the potential to decrease the amount of suck in the world, and instead they're using it to fuel racism and emphasize the othering of a group of people. So those are my 2 cents.